good morning, good afternoon, good evening to whoever is here and from wherever you are. Welcome to Life Mastery TV, your source for inspiration, empowerment, and fulfillment. I'd like to remind you all, those of you who are live here right now, this is a live presentation, and I'd like to invite you all to participate by posting your questions and comments and so forth into the chat area, and we'll do our best to respond to those as we proceed. So maybe you guys can practice your typing skills right now and just, tell us who you are and where you're coming from so we can just at least say hello to you. And meanwhile, I will get started. So my name is David McLeod. I am your life mastery coach and author of the book, A Life to Die For. And I'm excited because today we're going to be talking about this concept of letting go, and letting go with purpose, letting go so that we can really blossom and thrive. Have you ever found yourself holding on to something? I'm not talking about possessions or anything like that. I'm talking about internal stuff that you may have difficulty releasing at times. I find that we tend to avoid expressing our feelings because we're afraid of how others might experience us. And sometimes we avoid sharing our opinions because we don't want to rock the boat or upset people. Or maybe we avoid asking for help because we don't want to be a burden. Well, the list of things that we can hold on to and hold back tends to be pretty long for some of us, maybe even most of us. So my guest today is a mindset cultivator, energy healer, and tarot consultant who helps people to break free of invisible blocks to achieve their full potential. Using her letting go process, she helps people align with their life purpose so that they are inspired, empowered, and actually in control of their life experience. If you are stuck or challenged by your mindset, or have difficulty with emotional and wellness goals, or struggle to figure out your life purpose, then she can help you recognize your inner blocks and work with you to create a plan of action to get you from where you are to where you wish to be with grace and ease. It's my pleasure and my delight to be able to welcome Moira Hutchison today to our stage. Thank you, Moira, for being here. I'm so glad we're able to make this happen.
Me too. And thank you, David. You know what's really fun in this virtual world is that I like to make it known that you and I have actually met.
Yes, we have. Actually, a couple of times, if I'm not mistaken. We met at Soul Tree.
That's right. We met in Sedona. Yep. And so because in this sort of big world of the virtual connecting all over the world is fun, but it's also fun to say, yeah, we physically hung out as well.
That's right. And speaking of virtual and from all different places, I see we've got Harvetta from Shreveport, Louisiana, and we've got Marion from Pittsburgh. Well, welcome to both of you. And I know there's others on the call who haven't yet given us their information. Oh, I see Sarah is here, and I know she's from England. So we have
welcome, Sarah.
We have people from the United States. We have people from Canada because Moira is just outside of Ottawa. And I'm here in Meridian, Idaho. And I mean, this is great. I love the virtual capabilities that we have now.
Yeah, me too.
So I wanted to say something. Mindset cultivator. That's a pretty interesting title that you've chosen. And I'm assuming that's what you do with people. You help them to create mindset. But I'm kind of curious about your own life journey and how you got onto a path that led you into helping people with mindset.
Absolutely. So with mindset, the name Mindset Cultivator has come from lots of different experiences. I've been doing this work full time since 2004. And I've gone through lots of different variations and flavors of what it is I offer. But I'm always studying and adding new tools. So the reason I do this work, helping people let go, helping people align with their true calling, with their core, is because I've actually experienced two major crises in my life where I was completely stuck. The biggest and most pivotal one was I was in a cult from age 18 till I was 21. So you want to talk about stuck? I can tell you stories.
I'm sure you will.
And so it's that it was me learning that, facing that, and looking at the gift that it provided me. But then later on in my life, I got stuck again just because I was trying to be too many things at once. You know, like the fast track into the corporate world. I come from the corporate world and would over commit and do say, yes, of course I can take care of that problem. Of course I can do that for you. And until I couldn't. And so all of the different pieces that I do now, from tarot card reading to healing, energy healing, and coaching, and anything like that, basically my life's work is to help people get really clear on what that conversation is that's going on. You know, when I was in a cult, my conversation was, I'm not good enough. I have to wait, and I have to let somebody else tell me who I am, where I can be, what I can do, what I can't do. Do you know, as part of this being in this cult, was I had to disconnect from my family. I had to cut ties. So the thing was, you cut ties with your family because they didn't want any kind of influence on getting you out of there. And if you couldn't do it on your own, they were going to help you.
So before you go any further, I wanted to ask you a little question here.
Mhm.
Now, you don't have to say anything about the cult or the names or anything like that. I'm just curious about, you said that you felt like you weren't good enough.
Mhm.
And is that what drew you to this group in the first place? Somehow they were able to tell you or give you some idea of how they thought you should be? Is that what was going on?
Yes, absolutely. And
Okay.
so this is the thing. So prior to being in to joining that cult, my work, my life's mission, if you like, I decided at the age of 5 that I was going to be a nurse.
Mm-hmm.
That's all that I ever contemplated being when I left school.
Right.
And I lived in Scotland. I grew up in Scotland. That's why I speak funny.
I think I love your accent.
Oh,
Please
thanks.
don't say you speak funny. You speak in your own natural,
I do.
beautiful way.
I do. So when I was 17, I had aced all my exams. I was going to have a spot in a very prestigious nurse training college in Scotland.
Mm-hmm.
And the final piece to getting the written confirmation that I was in, I had to have a physical, like a full physical check. And I'm 6 foot tall. I stopped growing when I was 12. And I've had in the past, this past tense, had some back issues. I'd actually slipped a disc. And
Mm.
so because of that, they would not let you train as a nurse.
Oh my goodness.
I'm not sure
Yeah,
if
I
that's the
understand
case
that
now.
it has something to do with the fact that you have to lift people and all that
Yeah,
stuff. Yeah.
that's
Mm-hmm.
exactly it. And so even the head of the college was so disappointed because, like I said, I'd aced everything. All the tests, all of the qualifications, I had them in spades. And
Sure.
so it was because my true mission in life was to be a healer. So you can imagine at 17, I'm stuck,
Oh my
completely
God.
stuck. I
Sure.
never contemplated anything else. So
Right.
then with this, the intake for this cult, you started by a personality test. And so I get this personality test, and it's like, oh my God, it's off the charts that you're a healer. We can help you.
Mm-hmm.
So here's my plan B. That and so the conversation was all about, you've got a mission, we can teach you, we can train you, we can mentor you to follow your path.
Right.
Yes.
And I'm sure they did teach you and mentor you, and they
And
had a particular
indoctrinate
path
me.
in mind that might not necessarily have been your path for sure, but something that they wanted you to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so I was 2 years. I'm a real high achiever. I'm always a high achiever. You put me in something, I'm going to hit for the top.
Right.
It's how I've been. I'm the oldest of 5 girls, so I think that has something to do with it too.
Sure.
I'm
Yeah.
always the one that's taking charge. And so I trained. I like in this cult, I was trained to actually run organizations on my own. And then it got to a point where I was starting to have, so, the piece about being stuck and thinking other people have the answers, you shut off all access to your inner wisdom, to your inner guidance, because we actually all have the answers and the guidance, and what we need is within us. But when we go external facing, we completely turn the volume down, or sometimes even turn it off.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened to me was that I would say probably a year and a half into it, I started having little dialogue of, oh, I didn't like that. Oh, that person was treated badly and that didn't really sit right for me. And so it started with a little internal questioning. And then the final part, like when I actually did leave, I decided to leave. I had to run down the fire escape stairs and somebody was waiting. Somebody helped me get out. And they actually kidnapped me back. The following day, I got kidnapped back to be taken into dealing with. They were basically there was processes and procedures. So if you started to try and escape, then there's something wrong with you, and you need to have your mindset
Oh my
fixed.
goodness.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's
So,
the other part on mindset for me, right?
right. So when you first joined this organization, it just, from your perspective, it seemed like a totally above board. Everything was good. Obviously, you wouldn't have deliberately joined a cult, but it wasn't until after you'd been there for, like you said, about a year and a half that these little things started showing up, and you became aware of them. Yeah.
Yes. So that's what I was saying, was because for that first year and a half, I believed everything and I went along with it. Like I said to you, I cut ties with my family.
Sure. Yeah.
And I didn't. My father had said that he thought he'd never see me again.
Really? So
Yeah.
had your parents warned you about this? Did they have some sense that there was something going on or not?
No, funny story, and funny story was that my father rued the fact that he was the one that gave me they had put like a little ad in the newspaper, and
Right.
because he knew that I was in such turmoil of, I can't be a nurse, this is all I wanted to do.
Right.
So it said that, I think the ad said something like, do you want to heal the world, or do you want to make a difference in the lives of many? Something like that. And so he actually had ripped it out and said, maybe you should go and check this out.
And he was doing that from a place of love and concern. Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thinking maybe,
Good.
because he always knew that I had this healing bent. I mean, I stepped into being the mother and mothering role because my parents had separated they separated when I was 10, and then I was born in Canada. We actually moved from Canada to Scotland,
I
which is
see.
where my dad was from, when I was 13 years old.
I see.
Yeah. So
Wow, so that's quite a journey that you've had, and I don't want to dive into the details of this cult because I'm just curious how people get where they are today. And so obviously this had an impact on how you saw the world and how you wanted to help people and maybe teach them how to think for themselves rather than having someone else think for them. And that's probably where this whole mindset thing came into being. Is that right?
yes, yeah, it completely does. That whole mindset thing and the letting go. That's
Sure.
where my letting go process, because you
Yeah.
can imagine coming back out into the real world
Sure.
after having lived separate from. So in those 2 years, I was completely cut off from my family, from the media, news, because we were very much
Mhm.
inside this group, because they didn't want you to have outside influences at all. And so then coming back out, um, the key piece was relearning this thing of, I'm the boss of me.
Exactly. Yep.
Nobody's the boss of me unless I say so.
That's right.
And so therefore I have to now learn to put me above everybody else's voices. And I have to
Exactly.
have the
Yeah.
mindset of, I am on track, I am making the right decisions and going the right
Right.
way. Right?
Right. Listen, I don't want to diminish in any way your experience with this organization, but I'd like to just point out that all of us, I believe all of us, are in some way involved in at least one cult in our lifetime.
Mhm.
Now, for myself, I can name two of them that come to mind immediately. And the first one was the Anglican Church.
Okay.
It's not billed as a cult in the traditional sense, in that we have like a charismatic leader who's trying to make bucket loads of money for himself by, ripping you off and stuff. But religions have a very similar flavor. I shouldn't say all religions, but some religions, and the one I was involved in. It's definitely trying to indoctrinate people, to have them think a certain way and to accept someone else as their authority in life. Yeah. So that was the first one. The second one, then I voluntarily joined the Canadian Air Force. Now, if you don't think you're going to get indoctrinated in the military, man, you are way wrong. So the military is another kind of cult, although technically it's not really a cult, because you can voluntarily organize or join, and you can voluntarily leave. So, but I just want to point out that this kind of manipulation of what we believe and what we think and what we take on about ourselves is often injected into us starting when we're very, very young.
Absolutely.
So all of us can probably relate to your experience, even though we didn't have to disown our families or give up all our money or all that stuff, but we still experience some of that.
Yep. No, I completely agree with you. To be honest with you, I wouldn't change anything about my life path up to this point.
Yeah.
The thing about that experience is it's given me an amazing gift of discernment, to the point where, like you just said, there's groups like this all over the place, and it's almost like, because of my experience, I can see cult think or group think a mile off. It's like I've got this radar out of, like, you're telling me what to think. No, you're done. I'm not even allowing you into my thought bubble, if you like.
Right. And that's good. That means that you have developed, and we talked about this word sovereignty before.
Mm-hmm.
What you have done is you've reclaimed your sovereignty and said, yeah, I am the boss of me.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you choose. I mean, this is not to say you won't listen to what someone else has to say, but if it's coming at you as if they're trying to indoctrinate you or manipulate your thinking, that's when you put up the barrier, if you like, and say, oh, whoa, stop there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or even accuse, I'm thinking like we're living in some amazing times at the moment.
Absolutely.
And I think that everybody, regardless of where you are, what your beliefs are, we're all doing the best we can with what we know, with what's showing up in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
So just this past week, I had a little bit of a interesting conversation with a past client, who basically told me that I shouldn't be charging for my services anymore, because I offer spiritual guidance and mentoring and coaching, and so what's wrong with me? How come I'm charging people when I should be giving it away for free? So it was really funny, because I was sharing the messages with my husband, and he said, "Oh, we could just send her copies of our mortgage statement and our bills, and I still have to pay my business expenses, right?"
Yeah,
So
sure.
the thing about it was, so I very kindly engaged with the conversation. She's doing the best she can. And to the point, so she said to me that she was trying to get clarity. And so I ended up just saying, well, I wish you all the best. Wish you all the best to get clarity. So it was funny, because she emailed back saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, I guess I've offended you." I said, "Absolutely have not. You haven't offended me. I just realized I'm not the person that can answer your question. That's
Right.
it.
Yeah.
I don't have any emotional issues with it." But she did, right? So this is the thing about thinking that I am not here to please anybody.
Bingo.
That's the key piece.
Yeah.
I am here to get in touch with what is this? What is this spark of the divine? That's what we all are. You're just saying about sovereignty. We are all sovereign beings, and we all have that direct connection to whatever your belief system is. It doesn't matter. But we all have that connection. We have that ability to tap in and say, who am I? What's my patterns? What's my preferences? And follow them. That's our guidance system.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I love that. That's and I think it's very, very true. I think all of us are, the way I frame it, I describe us as we're all divine, magnificent, unlimited spiritual beings of light and love. And we happen to be sharing this physical human experience, this brief, temporary physical human experience. And that's how I describe it to people. And a lot of people resonate with that. Mm-hmm. And when I think, as you're saying, when we can connect in with that truth, that the truth that defies all logic and understanding and all the rest of it, it's just truth.
Yeah.
And you can call it God, you can call it universe, you can call it spirit, you can call it whatever you like, but we all have that beautiful, amazing connection. And when we connect to it, suddenly everything becomes clear.
Yeah.
Suddenly peace arrives. And inner peace is something that we're all looking for, but we all seem to be looking for it up here rather than down here in the core of who we are. Mm-hmm. So inner peace, that's one of the key ingredients, I think, of letting go.
Mm-hmm. It absolutely is. So the thing is, and I love that you just brought in the thinking process, because we are so conditioned, particularly in the Western world, we're so conditioned of, if I'm in turmoil, or I'm concerned about something, or I'm looking at how do I make money, then I go in here and problem solve and say, oh, there's an obstacle, there's a block, there's an issue.
Correct.
Whereas, and here's the other part, when we get into inner peace, things slow down. We get to access the wisdom of our own heart. And do you know, your inner wisdom, or that place that's your inner peace, doesn't use very many words. So if you find yourself explaining or explaining or trying to convince yourself or other people using lots of words, you're not in alignment. And so it's almost like we need to stay in that space of being the witness and take a moment. And be okay with pauses. We don't have to fill up every moment with oh, but how about this? And I believe this, and then maybe we should go over here. No, let's just come here and be here and let go of all that messy stuff that then ends up creating filters through which we judge what we're seeing in front of us.
Right.
Now, talking about what we're seeing in front of us, when we come from a place of inner peace and we let go of limitation or struggle or addiction, when we can let go of that and we can just see everything is as it is, that then helps us use, I like to think of using the world as our own personal oracle. And by that, what I mean is, if I see something or someone or an event that triggers me, upsets me, makes me mad, makes me start to get upset and irritated some way, that's a mirror of something that's going on in here.
Yeah.
Excellent gift. It's not that they are doing something wrong. They're doing whatever they're doing. Remember, this to me is such an important part about the creation of inner peace, and the claiming of that sovereign part is the acceptance that everybody is doing the best they can with what they know, but we're all on different levels, right? And so then when we start seeing things in another that we love and we like, that's mirror. I'm showing up with authenticity. I'm showing up with my heart. But likewise, when we see things that we don't like or we think needs to change, that's a gift to say, okay, there's that saying, I don't know who said this, but it says, what is it that's pissing me off about what you're doing or saying that I'm refusing to look at within me? And then take a deep breath. And it's not always going to be exactly whatever it is they're saying or doing is here, but it's going to be something like. And then once, because now that we're talking about the inner peace, that is the best place to be when you want to let go. So if you in my wee scenario that I'm kind of drawing here, that if I'm getting irritated at something, then I come in and visit, and sometimes it's just enough to say, I have this in me. I have some guilt in me. I have some shame in me. I have some irritation in me. Just by admitting, by honoring, by recognizing and acknowledging, sometimes that's enough. And it doesn't have any hold over you. Because this is the piece, and my clients and students know that I talk a lot about those emotions. We have an emotional scale. So at the top, you have joy and ecstasy, and you know you're completely connected to all that is. And at the bottom, you have hopelessness and helplessness. I'm thinking of is that Dr. David Hawkins with the
levels of consciousness. Yeah.
the consciousness. So you think about all of those levels there. We experience them all. But
Right.
judging any as good or bad, that limits us.
Yeah.
And then here's the other part of those emotions is I believe that every one of them are demanding our respect. They're not just coming up and saying, hey, will you feel me? Or can you experience this? They're saying, respect me, hold me, breathe through this, recognize it, feel into your body. Where does it land? What does it feel like? And then breathe through it. And as soon as you do that, the emotion goes and you start lifting up.
Yeah.
This is a really big piece of the letting go idea that we're kind of unpacking a wee bit here.
Right. Well, you've covered a lot in that little session there. I wanted to maybe see if I could get to a couple of points. One, you mentioned this notion of creating inner peace. And what I believe and what I teach my clients is inner peace is already there. You don't have to create it at all. What you really have to do is discreate the turmoil. And the only way you can do that is to recognize that you have the turmoil in the first place and say, oh, this is what's going on. And then once you just simply accept it, what happens is it tends to quiet down on its own, and you can easily then descend into your heart and find that place of inner peace so that all the feelings and emotions and thoughts and judgments and everything else associated with that turmoil can start to go away like, clouds in a stormy sky. Mm-hmm. And that's really how I think it works. If you think about this for a second, you mentioned also the phrase being the witness. And I think that's an important phrase for us to understand. Being the witness kind of means simply observing without agenda, without any kind of judgment or interpretation, simply observing. But here's the thing, and I'm sure everybody's experienced this. Have you ever gone outside on a nice sunny day with there's clouds in the sky, but not too many, and just happen to look up at a cloud and just observe it? What happens? In very short order, your ego mind pops up and says, oh, that looks like a bunny rabbit. Or, something else, whatever. You get the idea. It's no longer simply observing. You're starting to categorize because your mind is starting to come back into play. And the mind is not going to just simply shut down because you want to go into a place of inner peace. You have to keep inviting it to shut down. And it's not going to shut down anyway. So what you do is you say, oh, thank you for that observation. Please move on. Thank you for that judgment. Please move on. Thank you for that thought. Please move on. And I think when you do that on a regular basis, anytime a thought crops up, don't judge it and don't blame yourself for having a thought because you're going to have them. But just say, oh, look at that, a beautiful thought. Look at that wandering off into the sunset. How nice. Now I'm back to where I was. This is, I think, the process of meditation, really. Just trying to stay present and focused on this current moment and not necessarily allowing experiences outside of ourselves to have that much impact.
No, I completely agree with you. And I like what you just said about when you have that thought, you can say thank you and please leave. But here's another wee piece that I like to encourage people to do is if we recognize that those thoughts or that judgy voice, like, oh my God, what about this? And what about this? And you've forgotten that. And you have to go and do this. It prattles on like that. What I like to do is
That's a good word, prattle. I like that.
prattling on. And it does prattle on. And so to your point, we are always going to have that prattling mind that narrates. I have a narrator. I call it the narrator. Thank you, narrator. But I also have the judge, which will condemn me, tell me off. So I give her a name. And what I do is I negotiate with it sometimes. Because to your point, I completely agree with you. When I say creating inner peace, really what I'm saying is we create it by peeling off the layers and going, oh, it's there. It's here. It's always been there. But we've got so many conditions and agreements and mindset pieces that didn't allow us to drop into it's there. It's always been there. It's that, and that's why I said about the truth of us doesn't have very many words.
Yeah, and you mentioned that before, and I was going to bring it up again. That's a powerful statement. Now, until you said it, I hadn't really thought about it before. But I'm just so glad you brought that up. I think that's really important for people to understand. When you go into the silence and you get present, silence really means very few words.
That's right.
You know?
That's right. Yeah. And it gives this, it wraps you in this blanket of love, of acceptance. And it's your love and acceptance that you get to bask in, which I think is pretty amazing. But what I want, just to finish that idea about what I was saying about the different voices. See, we are all multiple personalities, right? But with that one that's really judgy, I will always say thank you to her because I know my ego, it's programmed to keep me safe. That's its primary mandate. But it's based upon outdated reasoning.
And it's also based on fear.
Yes, totally by fear, but also fears and catastrophizing that's not here. I'm not being chased by tigers. There's not bears knocking at my door, right? But that's how we react, and that's how our ego acts. But if we say thank you, and this is what I get people to do, is to say thank you to whatever that statement is, or that worry or concern or fear. Thank you. Put your hand over your heart. Take some deep breaths and say, I am safe. Right here, right now, I am safe. And what that does is it drops the volume of that fear-based piece, because it's kind of like, oh, I don't need to be on such high alert now because you're telling me I'm safe. And if it comes back, what you can do is do some deep breathing. Breathe in through your nose and sigh it out loud, and keep doing that. That's a signal to that fear-based judgy voice. Everything is okay.
That's right.
I can just go take a wee break now because right here, right now, everything's okay. And that creates this spaciousness of what inner peace can feel like for us.
Right. And what you're talking about here is something that I talk about it as well. You and I really, we teach the same thing. We just have different words maybe and different methods of doing it. The process you describe, I've had that same experience where, my ego mind's going like crazy. I'm trying to meditate and I'm sitting here. I say, I'm trying to meditate here. Would you shut up? And like that is ever going to work,
No, that's never going to work.
What I learned in that process is often the best way to quiet my ego mind, and it's counterintuitive for some people, and you talked about this already indirectly, but the best way to quiet the ego mind is to listen to it. And as you said, when I listen, I don't agree or disagree. I simply say, oh, thank you for that. Thank you for that. Help me understand more. And eventually, it's like talking to a little kid, really.
Exactly.
And when you talk to a little kid, you're not trying to correct the kid's thinking or change his mind about anything. You just simply want to hear what he or she is saying. And then when you hear it, you say, oh, now I understand why you're feeling that way. Thank you for sharing that. That's all you got to do.
Yep.
And it's amazing how quickly the kid quiets down.
Precisely. And I love that you brought that up about a kid, because I had this conversation with a client just last week where she was telling me that the different conversations that her inner critic or her ego mind was having. And she says, oh, I just keep telling it to shut up. So I said to her, so imagine that voice was a 2-year-old kid having a tantrum and you keep saying, shut up. What would the kid do? And she went, oh my God, you start to shriek louder.
Yeah.
It's exactly what we do. When we say, tell it to shut up, it's going to say, oh, you can't hear me then. I have to speak louder. I have to go louder. I have to go louder, because you're not acknowledging, you're not sitting in this piece that I'm saying. All I'm trying to do is keep you safe.
Right.
Right.
That's very, very important for people to understand. So the acknowledgement says, okay, I hear you. I see you. I recognize you. And then the second part, which you also mentioned, was gratitude. Thank you for being there. Thank you for your concern about my safety. And then when you can just simply say, I got it now. I am safe in this moment. Just those three things alone go a long way to releasing all of the external world so that you can let go.
Absolutely.
Right. Now, you mentioned something back about 10 or 15 minutes ago, and I don't want to let this pass because it was really important. You talked about how situations in the world are really a reflection of something inside that we may not be acknowledging.
Right.
And so I want to talk a little bit about how important it is to be able to acknowledge that so that we can create an atmosphere, if you like, a willingness to heal our own wounds or traumas or abuses or whatever they are.
Right.
You want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure, because I think this is an important part, is that we can't change anything until we're willing to take on that sovereign role, take ownership, or I often say take authorship. Take authorship for what's happening around me is my creation. So to that point, because then I know everybody's going to look at me and go, yeah, but I'm not controlling these riots, or I'm not controlling the. You're controlling your opinion and your attention to it. And how does it make you feel? If it does not make you feel aligned, peaceful, connected to your sense of source or your sense to all that is, because here's the really big piece, and this one's a bit of a head bender for a lot of people, is there is no right or wrong. There's just two ends of a spectrum. That's it. So where are you choosing to put your attention? Now, the other part that
there's no right or wrong, but there is a right and left.
That's very true. There is a right and left. But
I'm just sorry.
That's okay. We do need to laugh at these things too, though. So, but the other part too is, unfortunately, I actually have a belief about negativity, or our propensity to judge things as positive and negative. Negativity tends to have too much Velcro. So we all get stuck on it. Like, oh my God.
That's great. I like that.
So if you think about Velcro, that we get stuck in, oh my gosh, that's so horrible, that's dreadful, the injustice of the world, the politicians doing this, that, or not doing this, that. Always remember that's just one end of the spectrum. So where am I going to choose to put my attention, my awareness? If what's happening for you is that you're at that end of the spectrum, it's okay. Just where you are. Take a deep breath and see, how can I be kinder to myself? How can I be honoring and loving and unconditionally accepting of all that is, of where I am? Because in this, and we, like I said, we do live in some fascinating times. I'm a part of a group that, and this is very interesting. I was part of a group back in sort of 2013, and I finished it. I did a 2-year course with them, and then back in October, I had the opportunity to go and meet a whole bunch of them in person, which I took because I'd only ever been with these people virtually before. So of course, I really valued that it's all about energy healing, this group.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
On a global basis. This does global energy healing. And so it's very fascinating to me that I went and hooked up with them in October and rejoined. And even my mind saying, but Moira, you've done all this. Like, why are you feeling like you need to go back in and do the courses again and do the group mentoring part again? And then COVID hit and I got it. Because this is really our time to bring back our awareness onto it's all about self-healing. Everything that we're seeing is a gift to go drop into what do I need to heal about myself? How can I be more kind? How can I be more loving and accepting? And by that, we heal the collective. We get to rise up as a collective. But we can only do it if we're willing to sit and say, okay, oh, where's my breathing?
Yeah.
You
just hit on a very, very important point that I think many people fail to notice. I mean, when it's given to them, they'll understand the importance of it. I just did a podcast. I dropped it on Monday. It was called "Change the World?" ? And that's a lot of people, and even people in our field, like you and me, for example, we have this desire to bring love and healing to the world. And other people who also have great, wonderful things that they want to bring to the world and create some new shape of world. But let's understand something. Your idea of the ideal world and my idea of the ideal world, while they may have a lot of overlap between those two, there's going to be some differences too. And so it's in the differences that when we're busy trying to change the world, we actually come into conflict. And what we're failing to understand in doing that is part of the issue is up here, a big part of it. It's how I perceive the world. So if I'm perceiving the world in a certain way, then I'm definitely going to try and fix the world according to that perception, right? Yeah. And what I need to do, and what I believe we all need to do, is recognize that every single one of us has a different perception of the world, and therefore a different idea of how to go about fixing it. And we can't fix it anyway, because as you said, the real fixing happens in here.
Right.
The healing has to happen in here. And the moment I do that healing, it's like instantly something outside in the world also heals. It's amazing. And many people don't realize it. So I think it's really important. I want to draw attention to it.
And I think it's really important to be very mindful of the power of words in here. Because we're saying fixing. I don't like using fixing, actually.
Because I know, but that's what our ego mind wants to do.
Absolutely. But you see, fixing says you're broken.
Exactly.
You are not broken. Not one being on this planet is broken. Yeah, I know you're going to say, oh yeah, but what? But yeah, no.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you.
But here's the thing too, is that if you are in a group or you see people that you're going to label, or your ego is going to label like they're broken, or they've got this issue or that issue, you get to choose what level of vibration are you on. If you can see them, then let's work on elevating your vibration, because that's really all you can do. Mm-hmm. And elevating your vibration can be as simple as setting your timer and doing a regular deep breathing practice multiple times during the day, and drinking lots of water. Those two pieces are magic. Just breath work and lots of water. They help you access your...
So really, it's just air and water.
That's it. Air and water, and we're good. But because when you think,
I like it.
But if you think about when we're panicky, we forget to breathe. We do shallow breathing, which actually then tells your whole physiology there's panic. And then right in there, you can pause that.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. Yeah, I agree with that. Mm-hmm.
You'll have a beautiful example of that. I as a hypnotherapist, I work a lot with people with cancer. So I'm not actually doing any in-person work because I used to have an office in Ottawa where I'd see people in person. But right now I'm running a group program for the people that I see in that clinic. And just yesterday, I did a class with them, and I took them through a visualization of it was breathing, just landing into their body, and a visualization to help them see themselves as the light and actually be part of all that is. And it's I love doing that because then I bring them all back and they're all bleary-eyed and sleepy. And
Yeah.
the feedback from one of the people that was on the class, she up until that point she's terrified of dying.
Terrified of
Dying.
Oh, dying.
She
Okay.
has cancer. And
right.
and so her epiphany was she's not scared anymore. Just by allowing herself to land into this, I am connected, I am in flow, I can get my breath. And that's why I'm saying it's so simple, but it's not always easy to remember that needs to be your go-to when you're feeling like you're struggling or you're panicky or you're scared.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful. And you said something that I think is important. Letting go isn't about giving up.
No.
It's about simply releasing attachment to something that might be holding you back.
Yeah.
And I kind of imagine it as, holding on to a rope that's there, and it's keeping something from flying away. Or that's what I imagine it's doing. It's so important to me to hold on this thing to prevent that from flying away. I have to stay attached to it. And so I'm terrified to let go, because if I let go, it's gone. I'm never going to have it again.
Right.
And yet, ironically, when I do let go, very often what happens is the rope just falls to the ground. And that thing stays.
Yep.
It never went away. So if I really want to get back to it, I can always go back to it later, but I can release. And the moment I release, I notice my hand is very relaxed. My arm is very relaxed. My body is relaxed. And I feel like I can blossom.
Yes.
I feel like I can grow.
And that's the thriving. That's
exactly.
Thriving. Absolutely. And you're absolutely right. So what you just shared reminds me a little bit of Byron Katie's The Work.
Mm-hmm.
You familiar with that, David? So the thing is just to always be in question. In your example, if you're holding on to this rope because you got to keep on to that thing that's up there, it's keeping you safe, just take a moment and say, is that the truth? Do you really know that that's the truth? And then you can say, who would I be if I let go?
Without that, yeah.
Without that. And when we do those kind of just the work is a process of 4 questions that just ask that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that actually allows you to access the answers you're looking for are in you already. And they're actually looking for you to have your attention.
Beautiful.
Right? Yeah. And so when you pause and ask that, it's like, finally, I can tell you, because you asked the right question and you showed up and you said, I'm willing.
Yeah.
So to your point, so letting go, the other word I use a lot is surrender. Surrender is extremely powerful. Surrender is taking complete ownership for focusing on the things you can do something about and letting go of what you can't. That is huge power to this whole piece that we were talking about inner peace and also about taking your sovereignty.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. And as you say, when you do that, it's like when I let go of this out here, this external thing. I mean, it's not necessarily really external, but in my mind, it seems external. Right. When I let go of that, I'm no longer connected to that external thing. And now I can, like I say, relax into my connection to myself.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of this whole process of learning how to, get to the truth of who I really am. And that is where the real answers come from.
Yeah.
You're not going to get your answers out there somewhere.
No.
It may sound like it, but you're not really going to get it. You may hear something from out there, but unless it resonates inside, unless it has the ring of truth within you, it's not going to be part of who you are. You're not going to align with it. And that's powerful too.
Absolutely. And so this is the other part in what we're talking about the whole letting go and the becoming aware of these ideas of, oh my gosh, I have to keep it this way because, right? Many years ago, I worked in the government in Scotland, and I can remember, so this is me after the cult experience, and I actually worked as a manager, and Marion's got a question. We'll come to that in a minute, Marion. I remember, so I was 20 something and managing a team of 13 people. And I can remember going in and suggesting different improvements, like, let's do it this way. And I kept being told, you can't do that. No, you can't do that. But why can't I do that? I'm just asking you to try a different word processing system. Why can't I do that? Oh, because it's always been done this way.
Right. Yeah.
That's the only reason. We can't change it because it's always been done this way. Do you know that that's a theme for so many people when they hold on to things?
Yep.
I have to have this habit because I've always done it this way.
Yep. Well, it's like the story of the little girl who's watching her mom prepare roast beef.
Yes, I know this story.
Yeah. And the mom is sitting there. She cuts off the ends of the roast beef before putting it into the pan, and then she puts the pan into the oven and roasts it. And the little girl says, "Mommy, why did you cut off those ends?" And the mommy looks at her and says, "I'm not really sure. I've always done that. We've always done that. But I think your grandma might know." So you go and ask grandma, and grandma says, "Well, we had to do that when I was when I was raising your mom, because we had such a small kitchen and a tiny little oven, and the roast was usually too big, so I'd have to cut off the ends so it would fit." And that's how the daughter learned how to do that. You see, it's interesting. There may be good justification for doing something at one point in time.
And there always is.
It becomes a habit that's passed on from one generation to the next, and the people have no clue about that past history.
Yep.
And so someone like you coming along and asking the question, I think that's great.
And
so
do you know,
ask the question. Did you want to?
Yes, I will. All addictions, that is the truth of too. All addictions, the initial time you did something, if you lit up a cigarette or took some kind of medication, it was to fix a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just get stuck with it. So Marion's asking, how do you really know you have let something go? You can do all the therapies and methods to let something go, but sometimes it feels like it's not really let go. How do you identify that the process has actually allowed a release? The key piece here is to actually have an inner dialogue with yourself. And this feels also like needing to exercise the self-trust muscle, that I wouldn't say or do something if it didn't work out right for me. But if you've gone and done all of the therapies, it's really important to pause in between. Sometimes we go, okay, I'm going to do this methodology. I'm going to start journaling all my problems out. And then I'm going to start meditating. And then I'm going to hire a coach. And then I'm going to go and do this course. And then you get all jumbled up. Maybe it did let go, but because you're still saying, I'm a project, this is a thing I have to let go of, it may have actually gone away. Think about, the feeling when you have something in your eye, and you get it out. Finally, you maybe have an eyelash in your eye and you take it out, and you've actually got the eyelash in your finger, so it's gone, but it still feels like it's there. But then maybe you need to just wash your face or swish your eyes out with a bit of water, and then it feels fine. it's that pausing into the new norm. Who am I without that? Is it really gone? Is there residuals? Do I need to tell a different story? But Marion, the key piece that I invite people to do is to say, how do I feel about myself now? And see what comes up.
Yeah.
How do I feel about myself?
Yeah, that's really great. And I would like to add something to that. I know that think about it this way, if you've been holding on to something for a long time, you've gotten really good at it.
Yes.
You've been practicing for maybe even years, maybe your entire life. So trying to let go of something might require some practice. Just as it required the practice to learn how to hold on, you might require some practice to learn how to let go. It might take a while, and you may find yourself reflexively grabbing back on that thing, whatever it is. And I'm speaking metaphorically right now. I'm not actually meaning this to be a physical thing.
Right.
So honor the fact that you might not be sure that it's completely let go, and follow Moira's suggestions for double checking, reading into yourself and finding out the truth and seeing if there's more that needs to be done. Maybe you've let go of a part of it. So there's lots of different possibilities here. And once it's completely let go, believe me, you will know. It will be very, very clear in your heart and your soul.
Exactly.
And you
You'll
will
feel
feel complete liberation. Yeah. And lit up. That's a great phrase.
Yeah. No, and you will. And to your point too, David, is that if you think that you're holding on to something and it's really heavy and you've had to hold it really tight, just releasing it. Sometimes we can find out, oh, there's something else underneath it.
Yeah, that's good.
And so oftentimes when I'm working with people with, say, fear, I can help them let the fear go, but then there's something else and they start feeling it weighted down. Oh, it's because they're angry. And then, so remember we talked about the emotional scale. Sometimes we let go of that first veneer, but then we need to honor ourselves and keep going.
Right.
And above all of the letting go process is coming from a point of belief that you matter.
Right. And self-love.
Self-love.
Very, very important. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Now, Moira, before we wrap up here, I just want to ask you if you'd be willing. Now, you've already talked about a few of your steps for the letting go process. Could you maybe summarize 3 or 4 steps here for us before we close out? Oh, and I see Marion just made a comment. That really resonates. Self-trust and the pausing. Yeah, great.
My pleasure, Mary. Yeah, glad that made sense. So absolutely, David. My letting go process is a 5-step formula, but I'd love to share with you the 3 steps because they're very much in what we've just been talking about. The first step is awareness. We have to be aware of, what's making me feel stuck or sick or upset or irritated. Just be aware. This is like an inventory. Where am I? Where have I been? Where am I headed? What do I want? What do I not want? What's my preference? That kind of thing. Then at this time, and so because we're conditioned to be right or wrong, good or bad, we generally at the awareness step, we will start to judge ourselves and say, well, gosh, that's a terrible thing. And I can't trust myself to make the right choice, or I'm not good enough. The second step is acceptance. We absolutely deserve our own unconditional love. And so acceptance, and this is a big step where we just say it is what it is. I might have an addiction. I might have a limiting belief. I might have some kind of relationship that's not working for me anymore. Right. I can't change any of that until I accept it. So that's the first 2 steps, awareness and acceptance. The third step is action. Now you got to do something. And action doesn't mean you got to go and run a marathon or anything. It could simply be, I'm going to set a timer and do some breathing exercises regularly throughout my day. Or I'll start writing it a bit in my journal, or I will start recording my dreams, or it doesn't matter. But we start to take action on the insights that came from that awareness step, and then the acceptance kind of makes us go to neutral. Now we're equipped to do something. This is a big body of work, but those are really fast, quick.
Well, that's beautiful. And letting go is a process.
It is.
You know, this is something that we need to remember. It's not something that just happens instantly, especially if you've been hanging on to something for a long time. You have to find a way to release it. But just having the desire to heal, that personal desire to heal, is going to move you huge steps forward in the direction. Then you can start following the specific steps. So the awareness and the acceptance, and then moving forward. And then, I mean, it's a beautiful process.
It is. And it actually acknowledges that you are worth it.
And you are worth it. We are all worth it.
You are.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, Moira, we are just about at the end of our time. I want to thank you so much for being here. Is there something that you would like to say in closing before I wrap up?
This has been such a pleasure to be here. If people are interested in the letting go part, find me on Facebook. Actually, while David's talking, I can put my Facebook link in here, because I actually do a letting go guidance session every Monday. So
That's
people
awesome.
can come in, and it's because I use my letting go cards and do a little session.
Oh yeah, that'd be great. So just put your Facebook link in the chat there, and then people can click on it and follow through. All right, so great. Moira, thanks again for being here. I really appreciate it. And thank you to all of you for being present on the show, on the live presentation, or for watching the recording. And I just want to remind people that you can watch recordings of this and every other show on my website at lifemasterytv.com. That's life-mastery-tv.com. I truly hope you enjoyed this presentation. In a few hours, you're going to receive an email with a feedback request. And my request is that you go and follow that link, and actually please leave a comment and a review. And if you can bring your heart to do a 4 or 5 star review, I would really appreciate that, because it helps us to spread the word and get more people involved, learning to grow and expand and become the amazing beings that they're meant to be. And finally, I just want to remind everybody to practice your life mastery mantra on a regular basis. It goes like this: I gratefully forgive the imperfect being I have been in the past. I gratefully accept the magnificent being I am right now. I gratefully welcome the evolved being I am becoming in each new moment. So until we meet again, I am David McLeod, your life mastery coach, wishing you love, light, and blessings on your continuing journey. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks, David. Bye-bye.